Welcome to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast, rapid fire 10-minute sessions with Chad, sponsored by Tighten Up Training, as well as some of our other great sponsors. Today, we're going to be talking about some issues that we are hearing from our Tighten Up Training clients out in the field and what we can do to address those issues and see improvements across the board. Chad, what do you got for us today?
All right, so the first question was how to hold the team accountable for upholding and implementing Tighten Up training in the field. So, to me, it sounds like, they're going through the Tighten Up training. They know how to wrap, pack, load, but they're getting sloppy in the field. And I think part of that is probably a leadership issue. Your crew leads on the job are not upholding the standards of the company, and there's probably not, disciplinary actions for them not upholding those standards. So I think, honestly, like a sit down with your crew leaders and maybe everybody after that, and just talking about what the importance of upholding the standards that we're selling the customer when we're giving the estimate, and kind of following through the whole move and what's in it for them. All these movers want to know, what is in it for me? Well, first of all, if you do a good job and you uphold the standards, then you're more apt to get tips. But if the sales guy is telling you, hey, they're going to wrap everything from top to bottom, these are super professional movers, they're all in uniform, they're all employees of ours, they're guys you can feel comfortable with in your home, and then you get there and it's nothing like that, the movers are only shooting themselves in the foot. They aren't going to be walking away with tips. The people are going to think they got gypped. They think they got a bait and switch and they got lied to. And then they're never going to get a referral back from that client, which means that's going to make less work for those movers, less hours, less money in their pocket if they're not upholding the standards. And you kind of just got to have an iron fist. Like, this is the way we do things. And if you can't do it that way, we got to let you go. And sometimes you got to have a sacrificial goat of the group where you go out and you go look at the job and you see, hey, you're not doing the job correctly. You bring it, you don't say anything on site, but you bring them back to the office, and in front of that whole crew, you let somebody go. And it's probably going to be the leader because they're not being a leader. Or, I know it's very important. It's hard to find good guys, yada, yada, yada. What we do sometimes, instead of taking the extreme action of firing them, we will give them like a pay decrease for the next 2 or 3 months, put them on probation. And if they screw up again, they're out of here. And we will sit them down, have a one-to-one. We'll put it all in a document, use ChatGPT if you have to, and let them know, here's your probationary period. You sign it, agree to it, and then let them go. Things change like that. If once you hit them in the pocket like that, it doesn't happen again anymore. And if it does, then you got to find new guys. So I would say show what's in it for them. Make sure there's disciplinary actions for them not fulfilling it, and just remember, tips, they're going to get more tips. They're going to get more jobs. They're going to get more hours for doing the job that we're promising the customer we're going to do. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I got a couple thoughts on that. I don't love the idea of giving people a pay decrease, because I feel like that can ultimately hurt morale. I think that there's some things that you can do, though. I think you're spot on with some of the other things. I mean, it really comes down to management 101 and determining if that person's a good fit for your culture. But to your point on, letting somebody go and letting everybody else kind of see it, we call that a public hanging. And usually, you don't ever want to criticize somebody in front of their peers if they're going to continue to work for you. But if you have done everything you can to give them the tools that they need and the resources that they need, and set the standards and lay out the clear expectations, and you've given them redirects, and they're still not upholding that end of the bargain, and they're not a good fit in your culture, and that public hang can kind of set some people on the right path by seeing that it's not going to be tolerated. But I think first and foremost is you have to make sure that the expectations are clear, and you have to make sure that they fully understand those expectations, and having it very simple, black and white. Have they completed their training? Have they gone through all the videos? Have they passed the tests? Do they know what's expected on how to protect the furniture and how to get the job done? And if the answer is yes to that, then you can move on to the next steps, which are redirects and public praising. But if the answer is no to that, then it's your fault as the leader for not laying out those clean expectations. And so I would first take a look in the mirror, say, hey, have we given them all the tools, all the resources that they need? Have they completed their training? Have we held them accountable to complete their training? So that they have no excuse as to why they aren't doing something a certain way. And if the answer is no, fix that first. If the answer is yes, then recognize when you see that behavior going well. Say, hey, just want to give you, here's a $5 scratch off ticket. Here's a gift card for Starbucks or Wawa or whatever. To the guys that are upholding that, and do that in front of everybody at your mover meetings, during dispatch, out on a job site if you go out and do a spot check or a mover audit, and see how things are going. And if they're not doing something well, pull them aside in private, have a conversation, say, hey, do you know what's going on here? Why I'm not happy about this service? Well, you're not doing all the different things that were in the training. Do you understand all of these things? Good. I thought you were. I know that you're capable of doing this. You usually get great reviews. You're easy to work with. You're the type of person I believe in. I just want to see you make that correction. And if they make the correction, then your problem's solved. If they still don't make the correction and they understand it and they're just willingly not doing it, then I think a disciplinary measure is in effect. We'll do a write-up. We might call them in for a meeting. It might start with a verbal warning, then it goes to a written warning. Then they might start to be hit in the pocketbook with their bonus. I wouldn't necessarily deduct their hourly wage, but I would, we have a bonus program in place called Brother Bucks that is designed, so that people are on their A game every single day. And if the issue is still chronically ongoing after verbal warnings, written warnings, write-ups, disciplinary measures, losing some of their bonus, then they're probably not a good culture fit, and you got to cut that cancer out. And that's where that public hanging that you mentioned may be an effective tool to use.
Yeah, and I just want to add a couple things. I know we're trying to go quick, but I, speaking from experience, I have had to dock pay for. I mean, I did it for one guy for 6 months, and one guy for 3 months, and honestly, it's worked really well. Their attitudes changed. Yeah, they were upset with it at the beginning, but sitting down and letting them know exactly why, and saying, "Hey, it's either you take this penalty just so there's repercussions for your actions, or you got to hit the road." And they usually will take the penalty, and then they won't do it again because they don't want to be hit in the pocket. But a couple other things I just want to add in there. You should be incentivizing the 5-star reviews. So if they do a really good job for the customer, and like Wade said, show them what a good job looks like for the customer. Show them. We have our estimator come into some of our mover meetings and show them what the estimate process looks like and what they tell the customer to expect on move day. So you could try that. And then we also we have a Slack channel to where guys can send. We ask for pictures of their work on the job that we can post on social media. So it kind of has turned into like a bragging channel to where they're shooting a picture of the loaded truck or the wrapped furniture. They do some cool ones of like the room before it's all wrapped and then an after of it all wrapped. But it gets all the guys like trying to move up, trying to be better, trying to show off their skills. And then a way to make sure if you can't do spot checks all the time, we do a post move call for every job for our customers to see how did the move go? Did the movers do this, this, and this? We also send a survey out. Movers use home protection. Did they wrap all the furniture? Yada, 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 whatever the questions are. But that's a good way to use checks and balances to make sure that they're delivering what they're supposed to be delivering.
Yeah, you brought up some good points there. That consistency from what is being sold to the customer and making sure your guys are on the same page with that. And we created a video that we send to customers that's it's basically your welcome to your Two College Brothers moving day experience. And that shows, guys showing up on time in uniform, greeting the customer with a smile, shaking their hand, going through the paperwork, doing the pre-move inventory, taking pictures of pre-existing damages, wrapping the furniture correctly, loading up the truck. And we text that to our customers when we're on our way to an estimate or as a follow-up method. And it kind of sets that tone, but it's really important that the movers see that too. And you can see that on our YouTube channel, the Two College Brothers channel, because, if they don't get anything else from Tighten Up Training or from all the other training resources that you've given them, at least they see this 3-minute video on what the customer is expecting, and they know that they need to live up to those expectations. But I love your idea of recognizing people in the Slack channel. We use something called GroupMe for kind of the same thing. And then we have pictures that are framed all around the office that show what good work looks like so that people see it every day when they come in.
Yeah, we have that video as well. We call it What to Expect on Move Day, and we send it to all the customers we do it before the estimate, just so we tell them to watch it before the estimate to get them primed. They're like, wow, this company is really professional. But that's a great idea. Show them that video, make sure they know exactly what the customer is expecting on move day. But we're out of time on this one.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for tuning into these bite-sized nuggets, sponsored by Tighten Up Training, where we talk about all of the little ins and outs of the moving industry in 10 minutes or less. And tune in to the next one, and we'll see you over there. Tighten up.
Tighten up.